Hey everybody, welcome back to another movie review. Hope you guys have been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. And this is an interesting film for me because I wasn't particularly interested in seeing it, to be quite honest, but I was, I became more intrigued due to, the response that's come from it and just from general interest. And that film being Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, which I believe is the seventh or eighth, I don't know, of the Mission Impossible franchise, starring once again Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, as well as supporting players Rebecca Ferguson, Simon Pegg, and newcomer Hayley Atwell as they go on another adventure, this time involving a recent development in terms of societal conversations, the usage of artificial intelligence and the Entity, as it is called, which can be seen as kind of a goofy name, but for the most part, it didn't really bother me as much. But the Entity is a piece of artificial intelligence which eventually becomes sentient, has its own type of mindset, and it is up to Ethan Hunt and his gang, as well as newcomer Hayley Atwell, to figure out how to disassemble and to stop the rise of such of the villain. So, now my relationship with the Mission Impossible films is it can be summed up in a more visual sense than narratively. I don't quite remember much about the Mission Impossible films, barred some action sequences, which I would say, for starters, I think the action sequences in the previous films are fairly interesting, particularly Rogue Nation, the one of Tom Cruise hanging out the side of a plane. I found that to be very interesting. Fallout had some interesting sequences too, particularly a helicopter sequence, but what they lacked a lot for me was narrative interest, because I'm not sure if it's the same as the other films. I don't think it was, to my memory, with Fallout and with Rogue Nation. But with Dead Reckoning, there is a greater emphasis on exposition than there was in the other films. I don't think this was an issue in the other films, but or at least as evident. But here it's much more prominent and much more evident, because firstly, the film is much longer, and there is an excessive need to explain things, to the point where it almost feels as though the audience is stupid. It kind of treats the audience in a way that it's stupid, because there's it's over-explaining itself to the point where you just know the outcome of it because of what we talked about literally 20 minutes ago. The film's literally going, hey, guys, just in case you're not following this, when he goes on the train, this will happen. When he does this, this will happen. When he does this, this will happen. It's like it takes a great deal of time to set up things, but in turn also give away things. It's a very predictable, type of film. And I also think that it is loaded with conveniences. I know that for the idea of spy films and this Mission Impossible in general, I understand that there is a suspension of disbelief that needs to be taken. But there's, as is with the exposition, there's a great emphasis on conveniences here. There's so many points in the film where I just expected things to happen because of the need for a convenience to take place, and it does, and it happens again and again and again. And what I got from it was just a wave of just endurance. I was just trying my best to stay focused, because the ideas that it possesses, the idea of artificial intelligence, because ultimately that's what the film amounts to. It's about the horrors that is of artificial intelligence, and sort of the fear, playing on that fear factor of the what if AI is controlled, everything, and that's. It's fairly what's the word I'm looking for? It's fairly recent, in terms of what we're talking about in our society right now, especially in the film industry. And I think that tonally at times it's appealing, but I I just found that some similar issues that I had with the other Mission Impossible films. I don't think I'm gonna care about the story when it's all said and done. When I really sit on it. I mean, some of the action sequences are fine. I mean, they're mostly package-driven CGI, so the practicality of it is kind of downplayed. I know that Tom Cruise drove off a cliff. I know that there was a whole thing about a train, but in the usage within the presentation of the film, I didn't really see the practicality of it. I just saw more of a CGI fest than anything. And it tries to make its story complex by presenting cop-outs, like, I don't think that makes the film deep. I think that, again, it makes it redundant. I think it makes it convenient. I think that it makes it much too talky for me. Like, it is just dumping so much on the viewer because it doesn't trust in the viewer's mind. It believes that the viewer is not as intelligent, and it has to explain so much so that when things happen, the audience goes, oh, okay. There's a lack of trust, I feel, with the film. And with that, because I knew stuff was happening. I was like, okay, I get it. This is going to happen. I get it. This is going to happen. There's this whole idea of, like, your fate and, about cheating death and all that sort of stuff. It's like, I know what the film's trying to do, and I just found myself not really caring, and ultimately I just kind of was zoning out. And I feel like the audience was doing the same thing here. I feel like most of the audience, I felt, was just really just tuned out of it, because it just was redundant. Just the same mechanics, the same kind of same kind of mindset. Like, it really doesn't trust in the viewer. It's a film that doesn't believe in its viewer, and with that, you get a film that is quite boring and fairly unremarkable in terms of what Mission Impossible has brought to the table. I never have been much of a Mission Impossible fan to begin with, but I give it marks for what they did in Rogue Nation and what they did in Fallout. And there are elements to those films that I can remember more of. Like, I can remember about Henry Cavill, the villain of that film. I can remember that. In Rogue Nation, I can remember, again, some of the more action sequences because of how practicality is being utilized. With this, I just, like, the only thing that I can really grasp onto that really appealed to me was its ideas, the idea of artificial intelligence. But even then, there becomes questions. There are doubts in terms of its overall story, because it plays up the idea that the AI, it's like, oh, it can see everything and knows everything, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, if it does know everything, then why is it then that the film has to create a convenience to where Tom Cruise is able to get a certain thing, get the MacGuffin, what I mean? Like, there's, like, if it knows everything, how come it didn't know that one thing? What I mean? It's just like, it's the stupid, again, a stupid cop-out, the stupid type of thing that films sometimes have to do when they make something much too powerful. They have to then undermine it in some way, to give, to move their story forward. So I really found it, like I said, kind of an endurance test, really, and I failed at it. I failed at the test. I just found myself bored. I found myself just mostly tuned out of it. It's fairly unremarkable in terms of its action. It's not anything that you haven't seen previously. And I'm really not interested in seeing part 2. And another thing to note is that I don't know if this film will make its money back. This movie has been delayed for many, many years, so I think that it's about $300 million. I heard projections saying like $250 million, which I think that's being generous. I think it has to at least break like $1 billion, right? And if my audience is a indication of just how people are taking the film, because I know the movie's getting a lot of great reviews and stuff like that, but if my audience is an indication, I think that the film is going to be seeing some trouble, seeing some soft returns. So yeah, I found it to be just so. And one more thing also is that, I mean, when the action is not that appealing also, when it has to come about after a certain point, like, you know, it's like action, 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 exposition, exposition, action, 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 exposition, exposition. Like, the action itself also becomes redundant and tiresome. Like, I just didn't find myself engaged in most of its elements because it had to tell me all of its elements up front before they occur. You know, it's not a film that wishes to have twists and turns. It's a film that wishes to tell you everything because it doesn't believe that you'll be able to understand everything. And that, to me, is the issue of the film. So again, convenient, redundant, quite predictable, and just bored. I was just pretty bored. So that's my thoughts on Dead Reckoning Part 1. I'm not sure if I'll see Part 2, but you guys know your thoughts in the comment section below. Did you guys like it? Did you guys not like it? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for me, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.